So we've got a little side project that we're going to do some work on here. This is just a little bit of a break from the big yellow case, which I'll show you shortly. So here's where the yellow case is. Oh, no, I'm not showing you that in this episode. We've had a tiny little bit of a setback. The hardware that I was going to put in the great big yellow case actually had to go into my daily editing / PC rig that I used to make these videos. I've actually upgraded to a Corsair 7000D, and I'll snap some of that footage in here very shortly, like so. So this is the new workstation build. It's a Corsair 7000D, 64 gig Trident C RGB DDR4 3200 Intel 12900K. It's got a terabyte of NVMe 980 Pro V2, so the really nice quick stuff. So this was actually going to go all inside my big yellow case, but due to a few hardware issues I had with my old Xeon motherboard, this is now taken pride of place as my daily editing rig. So we're going to have to work out some newer hardware to put inside that bigger case, but for the moment this is just going to be my primary video editing rig that's going to help me produce these videos. So what we're actually probably going to do is test out my home built all-in-one cooler on this case. So these will go up on top like so. I'm going to actually chop the bottom off them, join them together, so it's going to look really cool, and then we'll see how much it actually cools this down, because that fractal unit that's in there is a very good all-in-one water cooling unit. I was actually going to chop it up and do testing with it, but I think I'll leave it well enough alone and just go with manufacturing my own one, and then we'll take it from there and see how everything goes. But yeah, for the moment let's get back to chopping things up, and this is the new case. Very nice, very fancy, very happy, but just not crazy enough for me. But what we're actually going to do today is we're going to do what would it be like if a complete nutcase of a welder / computer nerd built his own all-in-one cooler. So these are actually a smaller version of what I've got in the big yellow case. This is actually the heat exchange unit for a water to air intercooler for a turbo or supercharged car. So the air comes in through one side, out through the other side, into the turbo, into the engine, makes things all tasty. The coolant goes in this little hole, comes out the other side of the little hole, and then that actually gets cycled through that other intercooling unit that you saw sitting on the top of the case. So essentially what we're going to create here is our own radiator. I want to incorporate a pump into it somehow, and maybe see what it'd be like if we strap both of these things together and made a super duper intercooler thingamawatchamacallit. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the shit out of these things, we're going to modify them, we're going to slap on some of these 140mm fans that pump out 90 odd cubic feet a minute, and it's going to blow the house off and cool this thing. And we're just going to do some redneck science on this, I think. I think it's very safe to say we're going to get pretty crazy. So stay around, check it out, and if you like what I'm doing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the like button, give me some feedback, let me know how I'm going, and like and share and get these out there so I can create more crazy content for you people. Alright, let's get to drawing, hacking and cutting and buggering around. Nah, I'm not throwing it till you sit. Copy. All the way. All the way. Come on. Oh. Nah. Oh. Oh, you're so good. You love your ball? You love your ball, don't you? Hey? Yeah, we love you too. You're but cute. Hey? Alright, so I'm going to switch over to the angle grinder. The bandsaw is just getting too gummed up on this. I haven't got a coarse enough blade on there at the moment to chop this efficiently, so we'll give this a quick whiz with the old angle grinder and let's see what's inside. Okay, so we've done some very neat choppy. I didn't actually realise, I don't know why I thought these were like made out of sheet or something like that, but they're actually cast. So they're cast aluminium, and then this is the actual core of the unit where the air goes through this side, and then the water passes through all these little veins on the back of half of the unit. So what we're going to do is that will become the frontal back, and then this one we will give the same treatment. So we'll chop the bottom and that off eventually, or maybe we might even leave it. Now I'll chop it off. And so what I'll probably do is chop that off as well, I'd say, but for the moment we'll finish hacking these things together and then we'll flatten them out and we'll do some weldy. We'll fill it up with water and hope to bugger that it doesn't leak. That's a nice sound. Alright, I'm going to chop this one up in the vise, so I'll just move the camera around and then we'll get to chopping that up and then we'll get on to the next stage. Okay, so we've chopped these both apart, hacked them to bits, make them look really ugly, and I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do them back to back like this. I was originally going to have them around the other way and have them like that. But then I remember seeing this other air to water intercooler, that was a mouthful, and it had them like that, and it was for a V8. So what I'm going to do is whack these in a vise, get them running true and parallel to each other, and then we'll put a few tack welds on here and make sure nothing's moved around, and then we'll go and fully weld this out, and then we'll start working on the fan mount base thingamawatcher underneath it. So let's get these chucked up in the vise, and we'll put some tacks on them and see how things look. So we've got it all chucked up in the vise, ready to be assaulted with some tack welds. So I've gone around and sort of checked roughly that things are pretty well in line. This bottom side will probably face as one side once we get the unit tacked together and sort of roughly in the right kind of shape. I won't fully weld this out just yet. I'm going to put 4 tacks on each side. So we're running about 18 litres a minute on the gas, and we're on AC welding obviously for aluminium, and around 60 Hertz for these tacks and about 30% cleaning action. So we're just going to ram in some tacks pretty hard and hope this thing holds up. So let's give her a go. Aluminium's actually welding pretty clean, which is nice. Some of this cast stuff, you can really get a lot of junk and shit float up to the surface when you weld it, and it can just be headache upon headache upon headache. So I've actually ground these down to nice clean aluminium, but what I'll do before I weld them all out is I'll go over it with a brush and some acetone just to make it even cleaner than it already is. Looks good. Take this back out to our bench and we'll check out all of our dimensions again. I actually like to do it here and then run some beads. We'll clean this up, work out how I'm going to get the tip torch down in there and go from there. Alright, so we'll weld up the first thing. Okay, so I've done a little bit more welding, and this is the first sort of look at the crazy project that this is now kind of turned into. So these are the 140mm Corsair fans that this thing's going to sit on top of. And I'll just quickly pop her on. Ta-da! So we've got the two of them TIG welded together. Had to make some more modifications to the rear of the cooler housings, I suppose you call them. I couldn't actually get my TIG torch down into that little crack, so I had to chop them off, put a piece of plate in there and then weld them out. I've managed to scratch the absolute shit out of them in the process, so I've got to go back through and polish them and neaten them up and all that sort of shit. So what we'll actually do shortly after is we've got this eco pump, and so that's going to sit probably on this end, and then the outlet or slash inlet will come out into the pump. The pump will then have a line that goes off to the CPU and another line that comes down the side and mates up, so you've got two sort of fittings on a little piece of plate there. And then all of the fans will actually go into this little 10 port deep cool fan controller thingamawatcher, and so out of that you'll just have one cable leading to the motherboard so you can control this thing from a fan header, and then obviously the SATA and the Molex cables to power the fan hub and the eco pump. So still got a bit more welding to go on this, so I'll finish doing some more welding. I'll put in a few little shots here and there of that, and then we'll paint this thing black so it looks like every other cooler on the planet. And then I'll probably have two fittings for the base of this as well, so a totally different subject. One that will allow this to be a standalone unit that it can sit on your desk and then feed coolant pops in the back of your PC, and then a second one that'll actually go from these 3140s back to a 420 mount, I think it could be, or 560. No, 560 is the current length, so it must be, anyway, it will go to the same mount as 4120s, 480, yeah, a 480 mount. So basically you'll be able to strap this onto a 7000D, which, as it just so happens, I now have. So we'll make up those two iterations and then we'll see just how much cooler this thing will actually run compared to something like an off-the-shelf S36 Plus, which is what I've got in there currently. So I suspect it's going to be a lot colder, simply because the thermal mass that this thing can transpose, as opposed to a much smaller radiator with 3120s on, it's just going to be vastly different. But we'll do the scientific test nonetheless. So yeah, we'll get on to doing a bit more welding, and then hopefully we'll do some testing and see how ridiculous this thing actually is. Alright, let's get back to it. Okay, so we've done a little bit more welding. We've done a lot more welding. I made up the base to hold the fans. I put in some mounts to mount the 140mm fans underneath, and then created some little tabs to keep my cables nice and neat. What I'll do is I'll double-sided tape that on there, and then that's actually got the 5th port, which will be ready for the D5 eco pump, which will mount to that bracket like so, and then water comes out of there into here, out of there towards the CPU, from the CPU back up. There'll be a return line that will come along this side and made up, so we've got probably through there, so it'll be all nice and neat and tucked in together. and then we test this bloody thing out. I fired up the fans to make sure it works and didn't get them up to 100%, but she pushes a bit of air, I'll tell you that right now. So we're going to polish this all up, obviously, because it looks like crap, and then we'll whack a coat of black on it. We'll do all the water bits and pieces, and then we will test it out compared to the Fractal S36 that I've got. So I think that'll do for this episode, otherwise it'll just be too long. So next time we will finish this thing off, give it a coat of paint, and fire it up and blow the house apart. So stay tuned for next time. Thanks, bye.